Okay, I have 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Chapman?
Present.
Mr. Ford?
Present.
Mr. Ward?
Present.
Mr. Walker?
Present.
Okay. Board members had a chance to look over the consent agenda, and if so, we need a motion.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item B, discussion and possible board action to vote on contract for audit services for 2019-20 school year.
Okay, so this is for Pat Carroll. I think most of you know him. He's been our auditor for a while. He works really good with our district, really beneficial. So I recommend that we approve that contract.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item C, discussion and possible board action, vote on adjustment for school calendar for 2019-20 school year regarding graduation day.
So for some reason, we went ahead, we had the graduation date on the school calendar for this past year. Now, we didn't do that on the one moving forward, just to give us a little bit of flexibility if we would need. But we have the graduation set for this Saturday, May the 9th, which isn't going to happen. Now, we are trying to put together a slideshow. If you read the post that I put on the website, we're going to try to honor our seniors that night, but it's going to be small. I mean, it's not anything close to what they deserve. And so we want to do our very best to have an actual graduation. And so I would like to propose some dates that we put down and try to plan for. Again, I don't know exactly what the summer holds, and the thing that's difficult with this, I'm sure that this won't fit everybody's schedule. I mean, when I throw something out, someone's going to have vacation, somebody's going to be gone, but I don't know what else to do besides try to make our best guess and go forward here. And so I've talked to Mr. MacArthur, and we've looked at some things, and I've also talked to area superintendents. In truth, I was kind of thinking about just having a date in July because I thought that's what most schools were doing. But as I talked to area superintendents, most are trying to plan a day in June and then having a backup plan after that. So after visiting with other superintendents in the area, Mr. MacArthur and I spent some time and looked at it a little bit different. And so what I'd like to do, and both of these dates are on a Saturday, I'd like to propose that we schedule graduation for Saturday, June the 20th, and then a secondary date on Saturday, July the 18th. And then I'd like to say that by May the 29th, we will make a decision on whether June the 20th is going to be feasible or not. So that'll give everyone 3 weeks' time for us to know whether we're going to go ahead and have it. And then we can also determine whether we can have it in the event center or maybe if we need to go to the football field. And, you know, there's also talk about limiting the number of people, giving each graduate 4 tickets or 5 tickets, something like that. So those are all decisions that we could make by May 29th and make sure we're staying within state guidelines and city guidelines and CDC guidelines. And if on May 29th we needed to postpone, then we would move forward to the July 18 date, and I mean, hopefully we wouldn't find ourselves at the end of June saying that we need to postpone that. I would hope that we'd be able to get something in. But so that's what we're thinking right now, and that's what I'd like to get approved, that we schedule graduation for Saturday night, June the 20th, with a date of May 29th, that we'll make that decision for sure. If we can't do it, the makeup date would be Saturday, July 18th.
Would we need to have a special board meeting on the 29th for us to approve that? We probably would, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and so it would probably be something that we would see what guidance is, and then that week, if it looks like we might have to do something, call a special board meeting and call it, you know, a couple days in advance so we can get everything done and then get everybody in here if we're going to postpone it. But I believe if I'm looking at my calendars right, I believe that's a Friday, so I was trying to.
On the 29th.
Yeah, I believe that's a Friday.
We probably ought to, probably either way, we'd need a decision on it, so.
So
We
you,
probably ought to just go ahead and set up a special board meeting for maybe that morning or something,
okay,
and then just be here a little bit. And, that way that any decisions need to be done.
so that is May 29th, I double checked it, but that is Friday. So we'll get set up to have a special board meeting. You guys like to do 8 o'clock,
Yeah, 7:30, 8 o'clock,
7:30? Is that better?
Yeah.
better for me.
Okay, let's go 7:30, Friday, May 29th, special board meeting, and that way we can make a decision on whether we're gonna be able to have it. And like I said, there's a couple other things to decide too. We may wanna have it outside, and limit the number of people that come. Again, we'll wait and see what guidance we get on that, but
Because I really think that's something we'd need to vote on probably,
I think.
to go ahead and do it one way or the other, so.
Okay,
I agree.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ford?
He said he agreed.
Okay. Well, thank you for that suggestion. I think that's a good idea. We'll plan on that, Friday, May 29th. But if we're good with the dates as I've set up, that would be what we would need to vote on this time again. Saturday, June 20th, and we'll make that decision on at the special board meeting Friday, May 29th. If we have to reschedule, our date would be Saturday, July 18th.
Okay, you all have heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item D, discussion and possible board action to vote on contract with ADTI for drug testing services for bus drivers.
Okay, this is the testing company that we use. We've used them for the past few years. They're DOT certified. They handle compliance issues. They've done a good job for us. So I would recommend that we approve to use them for the upcoming year.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item E, discussion and possible board action to vote on management employment service agreement with OSSBA to assist district in unemployment matters for 2020-21 through membership in OSBA Employment Service Program.
Okay, this is the service that handles our unemployment claims. Kathy and I were just talking today about how beneficial this is. It's a godsend to her to, as we get some of this. We don't have a great deal of unemployment claims, but they work through that for us and, determine what we need to do on that. And it's an interesting time right now as well because there's a lot of fraudulent claims coming out. And as a matter of fact, we kind of think we have gotten 3 in the past few days.
Really?
And when I was talking to superintendents last week from other schools, some schools, Guthrie had said they had 50 at that point. And what's happening, they're getting names and social security numbers, but usually using an old address. And we're still checking it at this point, but we think we've gotten 3 in just the last 2 or 3 school days, fraudulent claims. So anyway, Kathy works hard on that, but this service aids her a great deal, and I would recommend that we continue it for the upcoming year.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, Danny.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item F, discussion and possible board action, vote on contract between Cleveland Public Schools and Oklahoma Department of Rehabilitation Services for 2020-21 school year.
Okay, this is the program that we use that allows our students to work for life skills training as student workers and get paid by the state. We've done this for numerous years. Most of them work at the high school during the day. And so, again, been a good program. I would recommend that we continue to do that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Seconded.
You got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item G, discussion and possible board action to vote on equipment lease agreement 1596264191981 with ImageNet Consulting LLC for copier services.
Okay, this is just a renewal of the existing lease that we have, and we need to do it for bond compliance.
I'll make a motion we approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item H, discussion and possible board action to vote on equipment lease agreement 15962641982 with ImageNet Consulting LLC for Uniflow software print management.
Same thing on this, just renewal of an existing lease. We need to approve this for bond compliance.
I'll make a motion to approve it as well. Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item I, discussion and possible board action to vote on tornado siren license agreement with City of Cleveland.
Really what this is the city of Cleveland is redoing their tornado siren system. I attended a city council meeting back last fall when they were talking about it, and we went outside and they tested one of them. And so in addition to updating what they already have, they're trying to add 4 more sirens. And so they have asked to put one here on the corner of our property. It would be just inside the fence. Kathy, was there a picture in here? Okay, so you probably have looked at the picture. But if you look at the corner of the walking trail that's closest to Swan Drive and up against the fence of the bus barn, they want to set it right in that corner. And it would be great for us right here. And it'll be great for the Meadowbrook Housing Addition. And my view is the more of that stuff we have on school property, the better off we are. So that'd be very beneficial. They are also looking at putting another one out at our VOAG barn, but because we lease that property, Chief Stout looked into it, and actually they get permission from the Corps instead of us on that. But I told him that I was pretty sure we'd be in favor of it anyway, and it will just be up against the fence there by the road on a pole. There's no wires to it or anything. It's just a pole and a siren up on top of it. So we'll have one out there at our VOAG facility, and I think that'll be positive as well. It's going to be good for that trailer park that's on the highway in that area. So that's what this is, and they're just asking. That one, again, isn't our choice. They're asking for permission to put this one up over here, though, and I think that would be a good deal. I would recommend that we do this.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item J, discussion and possible action on the following encumbrances. Board members had a chance to look over them, and if so, we need a motion.
I do want to point out on the encumbrances really quick before you vote on that, there are 2 in here that are over the $10,000 amount. One is there's the social media management. We voted on that last month, so it's just getting paid. But the TLI fellow sessions, TLI is Dr. Lane's when she has worked with administrators and our entry year teachers, and that is that contract. And then we talked about the need to purchase a mower, and so we are looking to purchase that mower this week, and that's in there as well. So there are 2 that are a little bit higher. I just wanted to point those out to you before you get ready to vote.
Yeah, they need to be pointed out. Thanks for pointing them out. Okay, you've heard the recommendations.
Make a motion we approve. Second.
Got a motion?
Yes.
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 Okay,
motion passed. Okay, information to the board.
Okay, first of all, just a little bit of information on budget, and it's something that I'm following every day, and we're having meetings on. As I know that you guys know, I mean, we're kind of having a perfect storm of negative things coming together that we're dealing with right now. I mean, we're coming off that 2-year high in weighted ADM that we've been talking about for a few months, and we knew that was going to come. Obviously, the shutdown with the virus is hurting the economy, so we're getting hit right there. And then the oil prices that we were discussing a few minutes ago are going to hit us. Our gross production taxes are going down. All of that coming together is having an effect. And so with us coming off the 2-year high of our weighted ADM, we knew that we are probably going to have right at a $500,000 cut in funds this next year. And so we've been preparing for that and looking to save some money there. But then, you know, with the economy, we're having to project for a shortfall there. And after listening to some meetings last week, as I've been running projections, I have been guessing at about a 5% cut this next year and then 5% the year after. And from what I'd heard, I thought that was a little bit high, but I was trying to go a little bit high. We're getting a little bit of information just today on what they're thinking the budget is going to look like. They are, because of the rainy day fund, supposedly we're going to be held harmless for the rest of this year, fiscal year, the next 2 months. So we should get all of our money in, and so that's good. FY20 is going to be in good shape. The concern is when we get into FY21, and again, there's going to be a meeting Thursday that I'll take part in with OSSBA, and we'll get more information. But there's good, from what I've figured out so far as I've been studying today, there's good and bad news. I think the legislature is truly trying to hold schools as harmless as possible. I really think they are. We could have a bigger cut than we're getting. The problem is, I mean, the newspaper says they're holding schools harmless, and that's not really true. What they're proposing is actually a 4.6% cut to schools. And again, I was guessing 5, so I was hoping it would come in at about a 3% cut, and it'd be a little bit better, but 4.6 is better than 5.6, so I'll take that. But they're saying they're holding schools harmless, and the reason why is we've got this CARES Act stimulus money coming in, and they're saying that's going to make up for the 4.6%, and that's true. It should, but it's not the state of Oklahoma holding schools harmless. We're being held. We're not getting cut more than that money coming in is, and so that's what they're trying to say right there. So we'll see. I will know more after the meeting on Thursday. But I do think if it stays at 4.6, we will probably get a little bit more money from the CARES Act than we'll lose on that. Depending on how you figure it, and I'm going to be interested to figure this out, the State Department is saying, guess, $95 per weighted ADM. And if you do that, that 4.6% is about $245,000. And honestly, I would love for that to be the number. My figures, and as I've been talking to some people, I feel like if I look at what I think 1% of our funding is and make that 4.5, I think it's going to be closer to $330,000. So I'll find out before long, but you know, that's a $85,000, $90,000 difference. Either way, I mean, it's doable. We're going to be okay. You guys have done a great job. We're projecting a very strong carryover, and because of that CARES Act funding, I think that we can have a good year this year. I think there's going to be enough come in and we not be hurt very much. But we're going to have to tighten our belts a little bit. We're looking at places we can cut to try to make up some of that $500,000 we're losing in weighted ADM, because we want our carryover to be as close to flat next year at this time as it is right now, because we might go down a little bit the year after, because we probably won't have any CARES Act stimulus. So if we do get cut a 4% or 5% at that time, another $300,000, we may not have something to fill that hole back in. So staying on top of it, I probably took part in 4 meetings last week dealing with budget, and there's at least one scheduled this week. I'm talking to area superintendents, and I'm on a statewide superintendent's call every Wednesday. So I feel good about where we are, but it's a hit, you know. So, but I just want you to be aware, when they're saying that they're holding us harmless, that's true in a way, but not true in another. But I will say, I think the legislature is trying really hard to do their best. I mean, it's a tough time for everybody right now. We could get hit harder than this. So while I hope that, you know, this hasn't been voted on yet, and they're thinking they may get it passed by the end of this week, I hope it turns out a little bit better than this. I know that COSA and OSSBA is going to be lobbying for a little bit more money, but, you know, we're not gonna be completely held harmless. It's a difficult time right now, and we're all just praying for the economy to rebound and oil prices to get better and for this to turn sooner rather than later. But we're gonna have some things we're gonna have to watch out for over this next year. I feel good about the year coming up, again, partially because of that CARES stimulus, but this is probably a 2 or 3 year recovery, so we've got some work to do. Next thing, just a couple things that I want to point out. You know, we've been delivering meals. Our food service has been delivering meals to students since we've been out of school, basically. Cindy sent me a message last week as we ended April and said that we delivered 36,602 meals in the month of April. I just think that's an outstanding number. I mean, 36,602 meals in a 30-day time. And I just cannot say enough about Cindy Proctor and her ladies she has working for them, and Jason Gilbert and the bus drivers that are delivering. And then we've got both certified and non-certified staff that are coming up and volunteering time to do this. And as I've told you before, there is nobody who is being forced to do that. You know, we've talked about the essential workers when this first started, and our cafeteria staff and bus drivers were essential workers. But anyone who has been concerned about coming up, and nobody has been arm twisted to come up. So everybody who has done that has done it really on a volunteer basis. I mean, and we've got our city helping out, you know, our police department and Vicki, our city manager, are handing them out at the library. And I couldn't be more proud of these people and what's going on. And we're going to continue this through May and through the end of June. And I don't know if it'll go any further than that, but so for the next 2 months, we'll continue providing meals. But I just think that's an unbelievable number, and I just wanted to point that out to you. I'm so proud of them.
I need to see that Rusty gets that in the paper.
I called Brandy Ball last week to tell her about that, and so she was going to see what she could do, but she was going to try to get hold of Cindy. So I hope that there will be something in this week's paper for it. So that was the intent.
Like a snake on the wall.
Yeah, this is what they're having to fight to get that done. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's other things that you're not aware of. This Friday is actually Thursday was supposed to be our last day of school coming up. We moved it to Friday at last month's board meeting. We have been working with distance learning, and you know, I think we've done some good things. It's not perfect. I hope we're not in the same situation next year. We're going to be talking about things to be in better shape if we are. But I am happy with the effort that we have put out. I've been talking to our principals. Our goal was to talk to every parent. We probably fell a little bit short, but I can confidently say that we touched base with 98% of our families about trying to get work and get work to them. And so I think we did a great job with that. We've had a pretty good response in getting work turned in. Our lower grades have been higher numbers than our upper grades. But, you know, at the point that we were really holding our students harmless here, you know, some of them figured out that we don't need to do this work if we don't want to. And so I really feel like even for our upper grades, we had quite a bit turned in. And we gave our students an opportunity to help their grades if they wanted to, you know, bring some of their percentages up, things like that. So I am pleased with what we did for as quickly as we had to put it together and the response that we've had. We've had pretty good response with our community. I think our teachers and administrators have worked really hard, so I just wanted to point that out. Building projects, we are still working on the softball building. We have been waiting for a week to get the sidewalks poured, and the rain keeps messing us up. As soon as we get the sidewalks, they're telling me 7 to 10 days probably to finish it up. So we're close over there. I'm hopeful that we will get sidewalks poured this week, so maybe the end of next week, maybe the week after, we will wrap those projects up. But they're coming along well, and excited about how that's going. It's really going to be a nice facility. The TSET grant, I may have mentioned this briefly. I wanted to give you a little more information. TSET is Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust, and I wrote a grant back in the fall to try to get exercise equipment for a walking trail that we can space out like you see at parks sometimes. And we found out last month that we had received that grant for $25,000, and you can't really ask for a certain amount, so I thought we might get $8,000, so I was thrilled at 25. But we did get $25,000. We just got the money last week, I think. It got deposited into our account. So now, because you don't know if you're going to get it and you don't actually have to have a full proposal, we aren't ready to purchase the stuff because we're going to have to decide what it is we want out there and what we can get for $25,000. So there will be a little bit of time. I'm hopeful maybe we'll get that done this summer. We have a year to spend the money, but it's something we'll be working on in the next few months and get some stuff. And just excited about the opportunity. You know, we'll have students use that, but, I mean, if you're ever up here, we've got lots of community that use that walking trail, and this will be a spot where they can stop every bit and use different equipment, so that's going to be good also. Two more things, and I'll try to get wrapped up. I wanted to mention prom. This has been something that we have kicked back and forth. I believe Hominy is working on putting a prom together. Most of the surrounding schools that I've talked to are not. We kind of made a decision that we would try to do that for our kids. We know it's important, and so we're trying. We have a date set at at the venue we were going to have it for June the 13th, and this isn't something that has to be voted on. I just want you guys to have information. It's one of those things as well. We'll see whether we get to have it or not. You know, as we know, if we get into phase 3 and things go, you know, church camps, athletic camps, those kinds of things start opening up. And if those open up, I'm sure we'll be able to have our prom. If something changes and those things don't open up and we don't get into that phase, then we probably won't be able to have the prom. I don't believe we will try to reschedule the prom if we can't have it June 13th. There's just too many moving parts. It would be very difficult to try to have. So this is, you know, I feel like Mr. MacArthur's kind of going above and beyond. Most of the schools I'm talking to aren't even trying to make it up, and Ms. Horine, who's our prom sponsor, and Mr. MacArthur, they're trying to get this done. But if we aren't able to accomplish it June 13th, if we end up having to postpone, then we probably won't reschedule at that time. But we do have that. The place that we were having it kept our deposit for next year, and it's the same type of deal. If we come along and 2 weeks before we have to cancel, then they'll just keep our deposit and we'll have it for next year, and that's how that will work. So it won't cost us any other money. But that's the date we have set on that, and we'll see what the next 6 weeks hold and see if we can do it or not. Last thing that I have for you is OSSBA meeting coming up at the end of August. That's the meeting that each of you attend and try to get your points. And so we need to talk about it for a minute and see if everyone's planning on going, what nights you may try to go. If you remember, it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but some of you oftentimes come up on Friday instead of Thursday. So, and you know, our administrator meeting that's in early June has gone virtual. Right now, this one is still set up to take place. If things change, then we'll adjust to those changes. But as of right now, they're planning on having it in Oklahoma City, same as always.
What day is that?
It is August 27th through 30th. Will all of you think that you'll be intending to go?
I plan to, if they have it.
Yeah, same.
Mr. Spears?
What do you think, Rick? You think you'll try to make it?
It just depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but plan on you going until we find out differently?
Yeah.
Okay. And so do most of you go up on Thursday, or do you try to come Friday?
I usually try to
Friday.
come Friday.
I went Thursday of last year, but that worked
Just
out
kind
for
of
me,
depends
too.
on the hours that
Yeah.
you need.
Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and set up hotel rooms because we can get those canceled. But, or anybody but, Mr. Walker for Thursday?
I'll come down Thursday after work.
Okay, so we'll work on a couple on Thursday, and Mr. Forbes, do you usually
Yes,
come
sir.
Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, so we'll get that set up, and again, if they go virtual, we'll cancel rooms, or if for some reason it gets canceled and we can't come, we'll have plenty of time to do that, but we'll get signed up and get prepared to go. Okay, that's all I have for my report.
Okay, public comment. No public comment? Okay, I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Okay, you ready, Kathy? Okay, I make a motion to return to open session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. The Board of Education went into executive session at 7:30 PM to discuss the resignation of Jessica Ward, Richard Ward, Lewis Basil, Christina Jackson, and to discuss the employment of certified staff listed on attached Exhibit A, to discuss the extra duty assignment for seamless summer option workers, to discuss the employment of the Executive Director of Federal Programs and Instructions, to discuss administrative salaries schedule for 2021, and to discuss the intern superintendent evaluation as authorized by Section 25 OS, Section 307B1 of the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. During the session, the board discussed these items and no other items. The board returned to open session at 8 PM. This constitutes minutes of executive session. Okay, personnel. Discussion and possible board action to vote on the following resignations.
Okay, the first two on here, Ricky and Jessica Ward, husband and wife, and they're taking positions at Pryor. Coach Ward was our football coach, worked in the high school. Jessica worked in the intermediate school. Hate to lose them. Great family, 4 boys, students here, and we're gonna miss them. But they felt like this was a good opportunity for them, and I wish them the best on that. So that's what's going on with those two. Mr. Basili had an opportunity to go. Mr. Bayou, what was his prior position?
He was in insurance.
Okay, and he's going back into,
Yes.
and I think maybe he was traveling a lot at that time, and he's got an opportunity to go back and not travel as much. Really, he did an outstanding job for us. We hate to lose him too. You know, Mr. Bayou kind of had to pry that resignation from his fingers, even though that wasn't going to make Mr. Basili stay, but he did an excellent job for us, and we wish him the best. Christina Jackson is moving to Muskogee. She's worked for us, I believe, 5 years, has done a good job, and we wish her the best as well.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Accept the resignation.
Yes.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Ms. Red, excellent question. The second.
Did you made the motion? Did you second it, Rick?
I made the motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. Okay, we've got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item B, discussion and possible board action, vote on superintendent's recommendation for contract renewal of certified employees on standard contracts for 2020-21 school year.
So we've got an attached list. I had the principal to review that list, and those are the teachers that are on standard contracts that we are recommending to rehire.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item C, discussion and possible board action, vote on superintendent's recommendation for contract renewal of certified employees on temporary contracts for 2020-21 school year.
And again, we've got a list of our certified staff that are on temporary contracts, and I had principals review that as well. And those are the people that we're recommending that we rehire.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item D, discussion and possible board action to vote on extra duty assignment and hourly pay for seamless summer optional workers.
So the seamless summer option is us providing meals through the summer once we end school after this next week. The food service that have been doing this, they will no longer be on contract. Our transportation will no longer be on contract. So at this point, we will need to come up with the wages to pay them to continue this. Again, we get reimbursed for these meals, so it really is a good thing for our food service. It's a good thing for our community. Our workers will have an opportunity to be paid at this time, so it's just win-win all the way around, and we're excited for the opportunity to continue providing meals for our students.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item E, discussion and possible board action, vote on superintendent's recommendation for employment of certified employees on temporary contract for 2020-21 school year.
Okay, so this is we've got a high school teacher.
Oh, high school teacher and
Yeah, high school teacher and head football coach. As I mentioned, Coach Ward was our head football coach, and he has left to take a position in Pryor, so we opened that position up last month, took in resumes, interviewed, and after interviewing, determined that Cy Stallard would be our best fit, and so we have talked to him about this job. You know, Cy graduated at Cleveland, worked for us in the past, left for 1 year to go to Choctaw. We're excited about the opportunity for him to come back. We think even in that 1 year away, he gained some invaluable experience, and we're excited for him to take over this program. And so I would recommend that we hire Cy Stallard as our football coach. We're still working on teaching assignment, probably in the high school, probably computers, but some things could shift around.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Need a motion.
Make the motion. I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item F, discussion and possible board action to vote on employment of Executive Director of Federal Programs and Instructions.
Again, we opened this up, put it on the OSSBA website, took in applications from all over the state, had almost 20 applications by the time it was done, chose to interview 4 of those applicants, and after interviewing, chose Mr. Bayouth for this position. Again, I believe you know Mr. Bayouth. He's been our middle school principal, spent years as an assistant principal in the middle school, worked at the high school for a few years, spent a little bit of time 1 year in Bamford, a little bit of time in the city, graduated from here 12, 13 years ago, you know, been a lifelong resident except for his time in college and away, and we're just excited for him to be back. Again, I'm excited to work with him. I think that he and I will work really well together. I think that he brings a lot of positives to this, and just think that he will be great in this position. So I would recommend that we hire Saul Bayouth as the in this executive director position.
I'll make a motion to hire Saul Bayouth as Executive Director of Federal Programs and Instructions.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, item G, discussion and possible board action, vote on administrative salary schedule for 2020-21 school year.
Most of this is exactly what it has been in the past. We just needed to make a couple of adjustments. There was not a percentage for the executive director, so that has been added. And also, we added a safety director stipend. Mr. Ellis has been performing those duties the past 2 years, and we would like to add a small stipend for him to continue doing that. So those are the only 2 changes on that salary schedule, and I would recommend that we approve those.
Okay, you heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the stipends. Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, it's not on here, but I don't know, should we ask for new business?
Special.
Not if it's not on here? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
this is a special
Okay.
because of setting this up.
okay, all right, we need one more motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 All right, well, I just wanna make sure, I wasn't sure on that, so.